I'd like to take you on a journey today. We're going to start at, let's say, somewhat of a sad place, but I hope that we wind up at a place with a very positive future. As Bob said, part of my background is working across a number of industries, and in particular, I'm proud that for 25 years I was a chief merchant, so I understand the process of how goods get made, how they're bought and sold. I think that I'm also a very passionate environmentalist. I believe in the environment, but I'm also very pragmatic, because unless we have a pragmatic view of what can be done, it's very easy to get lost in some pretty fantastic probabilities that unfortunately never become reality. One of the heroes in the environmental field is Dean Kamen, who not only invented the little Segway scooter, but was also instrumental in some interesting water projects. And he had a famous saying because people kept telling him, "You can't do this, Dean." And he would say to them, "Don't tell me it's impossible, just tell me you can't do it." And I think a lot of what we're going to hear today might seem a little impossible, might seem beyond the realm of the doable. Well, for all of those who say it can't be done, for all of those who say it'll never happen, just tell me that you can't do it, get out of the way. As I said, we're in somewhat of a sad situation here today. Our globe is challenged in a very significant way, and in particular in plastic and packaging. If you consider that 95% of all plastic packaging is only used one time, so all of the energy, the resources that go into making that plastic packaging is only used one time. Then to add insult to injury, 30% of all packaging doesn't even go to the landfill. It goes to the landfill called the side of the road, the lake, the pond, the stream. It becomes a visual nuisance and a nightmare and a public health hazard. It is one of the great tragedies of so many developing countries, and quite frankly also in the United States, that we find the sides of our roads, our parks, and our streets just littered with packaging of all types. Many of it bearing some of the world's most famous brands. It has a name on that packaging. Only 14% of packaging, plastic packaging that is made, ever sees the first step of recycling. That's a very sad and low figure. And of that, if you consider much of that goes to waste energy, it gets burned. So there's one use as a water bottle, one use in burning, and those molecules are gone forever. And then to add into the troubling fact that by 2050, as Doug will certainly tell you, the oceans will be more populated by plastic than by fish. Part of this reality is convenience is killing us. The fact that we want everything to be easy. Easy grab a bottle of water, easy grab a package of, a snack. Easy to grab a piece of, little detergent sachet. We have let the possibility of convenience, the ease of use, really get in the way sometimes of our better judgment of what we should be doing with plastic and the packaging that we have, because it is causing immense disruption across the world, including resource depletion, mass extinctions, and environmental devastation. I don't think we want any of this. This is not our intent. This is not what we're hoping for, we're planning for our families and our children. The objectives of packaging has always been to keep the product safe, transport it without damaging it, to have it in a friendly environment so that you as a consumer want to use the product inside of the packaging. But it's also always been based on take it out of the ground, take it out of the resources, make whatever it is, and throw it away. Packaging for millenniums has pretty much focused on a one-time use. We have to go back almost 1,000 years before we begin to see true packaging that is used, reused, and reused. And I would like to suggest that we move, as it's often quoted, to the, we have the recycle, reuse, and reduce, but it usually says reuse. And I like to think of it also as retain or refill. We were talking last night at dinner about how many water bottles are just used once and thrown away. 90% of water bottles are used one time and thrown away. Where we all know that we could use a glass container, an aluminum container, something to carry our water in and not go through that exercise. I was recently giving a lecture to some third grade students. And I asked them how many water bottles they used in a day, and they said 3. And there was 30 of them, and I said, so we've got 90 water bottles you're using a day. About 3,000 water bottles a year you're using. And if we take a look at the room that you're in and add all the water bottles that all of you folks are using, you would be buried alive in your water bottles. Why don't you just bring a container? And it was interesting because the moment I said that, some little girl holds up a container and goes, I've got one. Amazing. It's from the children that we're really going to learn. We learned a little about the circular economy. Bob told us that Ellen MacArthur found in Project Mainstream, of which I was one of the founding members. And it's been a wonderful journey with this group. It involves many of the Fortune Global 100 companies. And what's intriguing about it is it's put forth a lot of great possibilities, a lot of great potential solutions for incorporating packaging into the circular economy, and in particular, in incorporating plastic into the circular economy. And Ellen MacArthur's work was really based on, and the foundation of, a gentleman that I've been pleased to work with now for a number of years, William McDonough. Mr. McDonough is a leading architect, a visionary. But most importantly, he is really the founder of the modern sustainability movement. Many people who have read the book Cradle to Cradle, which he authored along with Dr. Michael Braungart, is the motivation for them to be in this industry. As a matter of fact, the gentleman I was sitting with at the table here read Cradle to Cradle, and that turned his whole way of looking at life around. And I had spoken with many people all across the globe who have been inspired to join the sustainability movement by the book Cradle to Cradle and the subsequent book Upcycle. Over 350,000 copies in existence, one of the most popular books ever written on the environment. Now, there's some real key drivers for packaging in the circular economy. And the first I like to see is design. The second is demand. And the third is collection dynamics. We'll take a look at each one of them. First, Mr. McDonough had a very profound statement. He said, design is the first signal of human intention. And if we think about it, as we design products, as we design packaging, what are we intending? What's our purpose behind it, other than the basics of packaging realities? Do we actually intend for these to be only used once? Unfortunately, that is the case. Also, do we really know if a product can be integrated into the circular economy? Recently, on behalf of Waste Management, we did a project for one of the world's largest consumer product companies. And they asked us to analyze 76 products that they were making and the packaging that those products came in. And on all 76 of these products, the packaging said that it could be recycled. And they asked Waste Management to take it through our material recovery facilities and see if, in fact, they could be recycled, if this was reality or fiction, or a vague promise. So we took all of these 76 products, went through 3 separate MRFs, material recovery facilities, and to test to see whether the bottle, the package, the container, or that actually made it through the facility and was able to be recycled in some form or fashion. Well, the disappointing news is we asked when we assembled the group, we asked them, what do you figure all 76 are purely recyclable? They all, in their heart, believed it. And they were all told by the material manufacturing companies that they could be recycled. Sad truth is, out of 76, only 3 could be. So this was pretty disappointing news. The marketing manager of this company looked very dismal. He said, so we've actually been telling people a lie. And it's now you just, they could in theory be recycled, but the practical reality is that modern material recovery facilities prohibited their ability to be recycled. The person who was really having the fit was the poor chief legal officer. He said, so now before we were ignorant, but now we're liable for the fact that we're telling people something that isn't true. And the reason for that is that in a commercial recycling facility, the little symbol on there that says recycled doesn't mean anything. What reality is a commercial facility has a big, long line, conveyor belt, and material flows along that conveyor belt. And what happens is at the first step, if the container is too small, it goes through a screen and is lost forever. It could be recyclable material, very well could be. It could be a great grade of plastic. But because of the size of the container, it falls through, never to be seen again. The other part is, there's a lot of things that are made of plastic are round cylinders. And the trouble with a round cylinder is when it goes down the conveyor belt, it rotates. And when it rotates, the scanners or the optical machinery can't identify what it is because it never stops long enough for it to be able to be seen. So as a result of that, even though it's very valuable plastic, easy to recover, because the scanner can't see it, boom, goes into the landfill pile. And think of a simple design fix for this, and it's interesting because this consumer product company, one young man in the audience was working on this very bottle design, and if you put just a small flat surface anywhere around that round cylinder, when it goes down the conveyor belt, will stop at that point, will line up, the scanner will see it, the product will get recycled. So something as simple as a small flat surface can make all the difference in the recycling of a product. And this is where design plays such a critical role in plastic and plastic packaging. But there's another very critical side. If I look at one end of the process of design and say that we have to design for recycling, then at the beginning of the process we have to think through how to make the packaging in a manner that, in fact, in a commercial environment, and I can't stress enough, in a commercial environment, that the product can be recycled. The other side of that equation is demand. Because what you find is, without demand for the product, at the end, without a buyer, it's very hard for a seller to get very motivated. And as a result, as we see in the United States right now, there are literally containers, sea containers upon sea container at ports and in various staging areas filled with plastic bottles with no home to go because there is no demand. But the demand is so low, the price so low, that it's not economical for them to even ship the plastic to a place to be recycled. So I think one of the great things that we have an opportunity to do is create demand. We have in this room some companies that have the ability to create demand. I know we're going to hear later today from H&M, and we have some other companies, similar large brands in the room, retailers. And as a chief merchant, I can tell you that there is no powerful tool for creating demand than the pen. The pen that you as a buyer have to be able to spec exactly what it is that you want your packaging and your product to be made of. Let me tell you, if Walmart says that we want our packaging to contain 70% recycled material, and the buyer sitting there is making that request, and oh, by the way, they have their pen controls $2 to $3 billion worth of order capacity, things get done. Products get made in a different way. Packaging gets designed in a different way. Materials that here before were not used or considered for use get incorporated into the mix. I've sat and I've personally bought and overseen the buying of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of product, and I can tell you, if I ask, if my volume is significant enough, I can get anything made the way I want it made. And I think that's an opportunity that most of our global brands and global retailers are passing by at the moment. And part of my crusade is to work with those brands, work with those retailers, to educate their buyers, in fact, how to request sustainable packaging, how to negotiate for price parity with sustainable packaging, because the argument that it's going to cost more, because that's what they always say. If you're a buyer who said, I want this much recycled content, the first thing they say is, well, that's 7% more. No, it isn't. Not at the scale we're talking about. And when you achieve those types of scales, you can, in fact, often achieve price parity with conventional packaging that is not recyclable. So I'd like to challenge all the brands in the room, all the retailers, and the people manufacturing here in China, educate your buyers. And we're, in fact, working on, through the Done Innovation program, to educate designers, manufacturers, leaders, buyers, sourcing agents, to understand not only how to design for recyclability, but also from a buyer's point of view, how to request recycled product, recycled material in the products and packaging that's made. But none of this happens until the leader of a company, in fact, stands up and says, we will. I think one of the things I always like about China is that once they make a decision, they say, make it so, and tomorrow it's happening. Unfortunately, in so many companies around the world, it takes a long process from the leaders saying, we will have recycled packaging, we will have a significant content of recycled material in our products and packaging. It takes a long time between those words and the actual occurrence of that packaging being created and the products being developed. So if we educate those buyers on exactly what the recycled needs are, I think we are one giant step in moving the ball forward on getting better recycled products and better recycled packaging. About a week ago, a little more than a week ago, I was in the Republic of Georgia, which lies just a little south of Russia and a little north of Turkey at the end of the Black Sea. And I was there on behalf of our State Department, U.S. State Department, and the Republic of Georgia. And what they asked me for is that they are starting at ground zero. They have no recycling whatsoever. Everything either goes to an informal landfill, which is basically bagging up, throwing it by the side of the road. They've got a couple of rudimentary landfills, basic landfills, and then they also have their favorite landfill, which is the river or the park. It's a real sad state of affairs. And their driver is that they're looking to join the European Union as an associate member in 2019, and to do that they have to have some very dynamic recycling in place. So they're starting at ground zero, nothing. So we're basically developing a system of collection for them, and it's based on a demand model. What that simply means is Georgia is a relatively poor country. Most people earn $200 to $300 a month. There's high unemployment, and those are actually the ideal types of nations for starting what I would call a very basic, elementary type of collection system. And to prove a point, the most successful model for this is Brazil. Brazil actually recycles 97% of all aluminum cans sold in Brazil, and they have done so for the last 10 years. And they do that because 412,000 people are involved in the business of recycling cans. That's little individuals with a cart, with anything that they might have, to go along and pick up the material, bring it to a center, and then recycle. We're trying to look at doing the same thing in Georgia. And I'm going back at the end of July to keep working with the Minister of Environment, the U.S. Ambassador, and the USA to try to accomplish setting up a basic collection system. I think that whenever you have challenges, one of the important things that you have to do is be able to think and offer solutions. And I think one of my favorite solutions is a group that I'm very proud to be associated with, and that's the Cradle to Cradle Products Innovation Institute. Based in San Francisco, this is an institute that was founded by William McDonough and Dr. Brongard. It was given to the world as a gift through the generosity of the Schmidt Foundation from Google. And their premise is they are the link between design and manufacturing for material health. They work with some of the world's great brands. Here you can see Aveda. And they're really trying to change how packaging is made in a very profound and positive way. I think it is one of the places that it's a resource for companies, brands, designers to go to and to become educated in design principles, and also to learn about how products can be made in packaging to achieve greater recyclability and also enhance material health. It is my firm belief that at this time we can move to a more positive future, and that we must move toward a more positive future. Our planet, our very way of life is in danger by the mountain of waste that we are producing, and in particular, the amount of plastic waste. I think that if we take a look at what is around us, this is not the type of world that we want to leave for our children and for future generations. So to do this, we have to come down to a very fundamental concept, and that's eliminating the concept of waste. This is something that Mr. McDonough and Dr. Brongard brought up in a thing called the Hanover Principles, which was developed for the Hanover World's Fair. And it talks about the idea that as long as we think and accept the concept of waste, we're going to produce things that actually generate waste. But if we look and we talk about a circular economy in which things are used and reused, retained and remodified in a constant and virtuous cycle, then in fact we can have a world in which products are made, packaging developed, that is both safe and positive for our people and our planet. So, thank you. Now we'll have some questions.